All right, we're going to do this again. Is this mic working?
Yeah, man, you're on.
Okay. I just can't hear myself, maybe because the headphones aren't on. Can't hear myself. I can't be heard.
I can't hear it.
I hear all.
Hello.
All
All
right.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Jazz Cabbage Cafe. We're back yet again for our first show, right, Jamie?
Yes, perpetuating, but we're creeping up slowly on the second show. Things are coming together a little bit nicer, but we're still going to continue the first show for now.
Oh, yeah.
But we have a lot of cool stuff to talk about, though, for this first show. We have a lot of cool people joining us here today.
Absolutely, absolutely. So maybe we can just go around the table here and kind of introduce ourselves. My name's Derek. I obviously like cannabis a lot. Next.
Hey, it's Rick Thompson.
Well, we skipped Jamie.
Jamie already introduced himself,
yeah.
did he not?
Oh, yeah. Well, forget about him. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Rick Thompson.
Forget about Jamie.
And yeah, we'll try hard, but it's difficult because you're right in that seat, right next to me. Jamie Lowell, Third Coast Compassion, Am I Legalized? So many other things.
Michigan marijuana law experts.
It's true.
Adam Berg. Today, I guess I'll be a sit-down comedian.
All right.
Now we skipped you, Rick.
Starting right off
No,
the
I
bat.
got me.
All right. Debra Young, my second visit to the first show, formerly of Am I Legalized, Young's Organic Gardens, and many other things.
Nice.
Very
A lot of
nice.
good work out there.
Yes.
And Ken is hanging out back there. Ken Harrell, who's
Hey, Ken.
He'll be joining us soon.
he's got some good info for us.
Yeah.
And
He's got a matching phone and jacket, I want to point out.
he goes way back in this whole talking about cannabis on radio game.
That's awesome. And it's a really, really big show, as I'm sure a lot of our listeners are aware. There's a lot going on. A lot going on today.
Man, Lansing.
The Lansing. And exactly what's happening in Lansing, it's, if you want to explain it a little bit further, but it has to do with the petitions, all the signatures that were collected was, unfortunately.
The clerk didn't approve the referendum to go to ballot because of lack of signatures, and that was by way of disqualifying a couple of the signature gatherers and all of their signatures that they gathered. So there were several hundred, and that's being challenged, and that was filed.
And if I might be mistaken, but it was off by like 45 signatures, and that's what he said. And
That's
really
what I read, yeah, 45. That's
Right.
crazy, because we had a situation like that when I ran a petition drive in Oak Park, and we came up short, but the city clerk called us and said, you know what? You guys are like 78 signatures short. I'm still counting, but I'm going over it, and we went back out.
Yeah.
And they gave us the opportunity to do that. This, they waited until it was too late.
yep.
So,
Well, they obviously got, in real life, way more signatures than necessary.
well, for
to try to
sure.
account
Yeah.
for this
Well,
type
they
of
can
thing,
challenge this, though, and they can challenge signatures and things of that nature. We've
That's-
done that before.
That's what went down.
Yeah,
The-
they challenged it, and then, correct me if I'm wrong, Jamie, they found 750 signatures, correct, that had been disqualified that were actually qualified
Right.
signatures.
There you go.
So not only did they get back the 45 they needed, they had a huge cushion and buffer zone after that. But now, for some reason, Chris Swope, who is the city clerk for the city of Lansing, has refused to authorize the petition to go on the ballot, saying that his original denial cannot be overturned by any method, even if he's proven to have been wrong originally. And this is going to court for that.
So he is right into all eternity, he's claiming.
Yeah, once they make a decision, they can't
That's
they
it.
can't
Set
fix
in
it if it's
stone.
bad.
Yeah.
How horrible!
It sounds very
how,
democratic.
How convenient for government that would be.
Wait-
Yeah, we messed up, but
way
too
to have a
bad.
functional process that
Yeah,
way.
it sounds like a Trump thing.
Oh
So
my
before we get
gosh.
too far into that, there's also a big election happening in Detroit today.
Yeah.
Yep, two initiatives that would formally opt the city into the Michigan Marijuana or Medical Marijuana Facilities Licensing Act.
Well, and two people running for governor or for mayor of Detroit with two very different views of cannabis, too.
Yep, the Detroit thing's going to be on my news segment at 5 o'clock. The Leafly wrote about it. There's a lot of places noting this
In the Pier,
ballot.
we need Elaine Jockins to win.
Absolutely.
She's a very positive voice on the commission there, and she's up for re-election today.
Yeah. Elaine's the one.
Yep. So we've got a lot of things going on.
The
Detroit's
the bill in Lansing that
Yeah.
was discussed again in committee
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
stacking. That's the
Right.
so-called anti-stacking bill.
Second hearing for House Bill 5189. Michigan State Police are rolling out a new roadside swab test, and amid much media attention and scrutiny on the test's validity, and MSP doesn't really like to be questioned, so that makes them uncomfortable.
And that honestly is probably our hottest topic. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's what everybody's talking about right now because
Sure.
it almost seems unreal.
You know, it's an election day. Normally, you'd like to talk about that, but in an off year where a lot of us, didn't really have ballot proposals in front of us. I had a special election in my community, but it didn't affect me because I'm not in the particular school district that it would propose a tax for. So
We had nothing in Ferndale.
I know.
We had three, a mayor, 2 council running unopposed, nothing else. So I went in and wrote Craig Covey's name into all 3 slots because you can do a write-in still.
there you go.
That's all I could do.
Yeah, participate in the electoral process, even if you don't have anything, anyone.
Sure.
On that note, there are a lot of national races that have some marijuana content in it too. Akron, Ohio's voting on a decrim, which is, for us, it's almost old hat now. We start laughing when you talk about cities trying to do a decrim because we've done it like 25 times here in Michigan, literally 25 times. But and Deb's done quite a few of them. Jamie and I tried a couple, didn't do so well.
We have the distinction of
I'll
being
school
on
you
the-
next
some of
time.
the only old ones.
We tried the
Some of
toughest
the only
communities.
failures.
We tried the
Yeah.
toughest communities, and they proved to be the toughest.
Just went up
But the
north.
but the but
Figured
the
out
fact
where the
is,
limits are.
in Ohio, it's relatively revolutionary, and Akron's a pretty big city too in Ohio as well. Plus, there's some gubernatorial races across the United States that have some pro-cannabis candidates, which are worth noting. So we'll cover those in the 5 o'clock hour.
Yes. And besides that, there's a lot of awesome stuff to talk about that goes beyond these amazingly hot topics, like stuff that's going on that's 420 friendly this week. Also, just some additional news, some more fluff stories, some funny things, maybe in the weed community to talk about just for 5 minutes. And as always, I love celebrating 420, which today should be extra fun.
We have our sit-down comedian here
Yeah.
in
Yes.
studio with us.
I thought I was going to be late today. I apologize. I got pulled over on the way here.
You apologize for not being late?
Yeah, I apologize. Well, I apologize for almost being late, but luckily got out of it. He decided to make him laugh, and it worked.
Nice.
He rolls up and he says, "Can I see you?" He says, "Papers, please." I'm like, "All right, scissors." He drove off.
Right.
Oh, he found
You got
pulled
him.
me, yeah, he pulled me over again, though. He's like, "No, I mean, can you identify yourself?" So I looked in the rearview mirror. I'm like, "All right, this is me. Can I go now?" He's like, "Get out of here."
It never works for me.
It was the delivery for sure.
I'm yeah. You look like more of a rocks kind of a guy. He's definitely a scissors dude.
I think I
So-
take that as a compliment. I will take that as a compliment.
Excellent.
So,
We're on Cave
And we do
Radio.
have somebody who is the spokesperson for the issue in Lansing who's
yeah,
heading up the...
I believe it's Sarah Galley.
okay, so that'll be nice to hear specifically what's going on, what the status is, and
Yeah.
who's involved in that.
She should be calling in around 5:15. Actually, I need to text her over the number, and I wanted to take a minute to tell all the listeners
While you're,
the
while
number.
you're
which
giving
I-
her the number, you may as well tell
I
everybody.
should, yeah, I should memorize it, but I don't have it. So somebody find it and tell me it.
Our
But-
number here for call-in is area code 313-879-5059.
Rick knew that right off the top of his head. and
That
you
was
did
great,
not.
Rick.
313-879-5059.
Truly commendable.
Dial
He
it
had
sexy.
a card right in front of
Don't
him.
use
with
your
a-
finger when you push the buttons. Yeah.
I just want to remind everybody that Jazz Cabbage Cafe is brought to you by our leading sponsor, 3 Doors Down. Because at 3 Doors Down, you'll find all the smoking supplies, vaporizers, silicones, wraps, incense, oils, jewelry, apparel, tie-dyes, games, books, posters, gifts, all of these accessories you need and much more. Looking for rosin press or tumblers? Look no further. 3 Doors Down has all your pressing needs. 80% off the glass at 3 Doors Down Head Shops, locally made right here in Michigan. Visit 3 Doors Down Head Shops online, 3doorsdownheadshops.com, or follow them on Facebook, Instagram, and Mass Roots. With 3 convenient locations in Waterford, Traverse Cities, and Bay Cities, head to 3 Doors Down Head Shops and take advantage of the great deals and prices. Simply mention our show, Jazz Cabbage Cafe, at any of the locations and get 15% off. That's huge.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, 3 Doors Down.
Good people.
I might run over and get a grinder.
Ken, I've been wondering myself, the stock market's been on a bit of a surge in this post-Trump presidency situation that we've got going on here. How's the cannabis stock industry doing?
Cannabis stocks are doing pretty well. Cannabis stocks are heating up.
He is saying the cannabis stocks are doing pretty well.
Yeah,
He was saying, Rick, you're handsome, and cannabis stocks are doing really well.
Wow.
say that 3 times fast.
I would rather not.
No, but I know their indexes. A lot of people don't realize exactly how advanced cannabis stocks are and how openly traded they are and how easy it is to get involved in the market. So I'm looking forward to a conversation with Ken. Another MICBD conference veteran.
Yes, sir. Yes,
That's right.
sir.
It's Deb Young spoke at our MICBD conference.
I did, I recall.
Absolutely. Yep. So we get a lot of people here with some experience in this. Tis the season to host a conference. Fa la 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 la. As we approach December 15th, I've got an event coming up December 3rd for the MICBD group in Lansing at the Radisson Hotel. That's as we rapidly approach application turn-in time on December 15th. It's a last-minute opportunity for you to learn an awful lot about what you're doing. Make sure that you get some fine-tuning in your application from some of the experts, and make sure that you're not missing anything that could potentially cause a reject.
So I just want to add in some good news that just came in,
Rock us.
if you don't mind.
Add it.
There's a circuit court opinion on this, not being read, but generally the headlines are that the nuisance and registration laws in Warren, the local ordinances concerning marijuana, are preempted by the MMMA. They are
Well,
more
of
restrictive
course.
than the MMMA, so
Well,
they
of
can't do it.
course. They
We know
can't
it.
do it.
Similar to Terbeek, but they made them play it
They're
out
not
again.
they're not letting caregivers grow in their own houses.
Right.
They're saying you have to be in a commercial property as a caregiver.
And the registration,
Warren.
program
And
too
you have to
is
register your garden as a caregiver, which is you don't have to do that.
No, you don't.
State license you. That's it.
So we've seen other issues. Obviously, the
It's crazy.
Terbeek Supreme Court decision springs to
Yeah.
mind, and it's sad that communities still need to get their asses sued by the citizenry in order to get them
Yeah.
to follow laws.
Follow the
We're all
law.
sitting here
Hey,
going, "Yeah, we
There's
knew
a
that."
couple
'cause-
lawyers who are on our side and are
Right.
very, very good for us. That I remember early on talking about this issue a lot.
Yep.
Still said that it's not a foregone conclusion that a township or a city cannot sequester caregivers into like this industrial area or something like that because the house isn't necessarily specifically mentioned as the place, but of course, where else are they going to do it and that kind of stuff. But their point is that, yes, it remains challengeable even after Terbeek. People are still going to not necessarily respect it and make you go through the hoops of going to
Sure.
court again and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because they figure most of the people would just walk away.
Yep. We've
You
got
don't
to.
want to draw any attention to yourself. You don't want to make any animosity with the local police.
Yes.
Lots
Lots of reasons to not want to make waves locally,
Sure.
not just in the cannabis industry, but for a lot of things. I've got kids in school. I'm a
Right.
business person who depends
neighbors
upon
don't know what I'm doing.
my
It's all
reputation
kinds
in
of
the
stuff.
community, for my livelihood, all that other stuff too. I mean, there's a million reasons to not challenge local communities when they do bad things. It's why we have to have some people that don't have the connections to the community that are willing to do it, that are really able to go in there and take on your city. I don't live in Thetford Township. I go to Thetford Township and I tell them what's what, and I show them what's their ass and what's a hole in the ground. And it doesn't matter because I can leave, and as long as I drive out of there without the cops pulling me over and beating me up, I'm okay. I
Right.
managed, right? So sometimes we see the best opportunity to initiate action comes from outside. This is why the American Civil Liberties Union is oftentimes such a valuable tool. If you cannot, because local politics are so strict in your area, you can't sue them, ACLU can step in and do it for you, or they can work with you.
I had them write the city of Ferndale a couple of letters
Yeah.
when they tried to restrict us on signage and things of that nature that I knew was incorrect. And the police department kept coming and pulling our signs down, and we knew they couldn't do that.
Right.
I had to have they had to write them a letter, and then boom, the signs were left alone.
So ACLU in
And
that
that's in
instance-
Ferndale,
Yeah.
so we're not even talking about Warren. now.
That's a very liberal
Yeah,
community for
right.
those of you that aren't familiar with Ferndale. You wouldn't expect that kind
Never.
of hillbilly police action to go down in that town.
So, Rick, why don't you jump into the House bill that's in action right now? You testified at the first committee hearing, the second one you watched streaming today.
In a brief touch, because it is almost 420, boys.
It is almost 4:20, so
Okay.
we'll tease the audience
Let's
with just a
go.
little bit of a story,
Just
and
tickle
then
'em.
and then we'll tell you what happened today after the break. So, as we know, the MMFLA is rolling out. We have in the law articulated 3 different types of grow facilities. One that will grow up to 500 plants, one up to 1,000, one up to 1,500. They're Class A, B, and C respectively, as their titles. Licensing and Regulatory Affairs issued a directive that said that they would allow stacking of Class C licenses, meaning that you could put 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 licenses of the Class C size together in a single parcel or in a single unit. That could create an opportunity to grow upwards of 10,000 plants or more in a single facility. Now, the arguments for this have been articulated, economies of scale. This is the only way we can produce cannabis at an affordable rate. Smaller farms will never be able to cut it. They're too unstable. We need all of this in one company that's done this for a lot in other places. Hogwash, I say, and a lot worse than that.
You say monopoly?
Yeah, I can say monopoly, and that's just, a lot of what the Michigan Responsibility Council tried to push for back when we were fighting them in the first legislative effort, for Am I Legalized and for the local option bill back then, too. They wanted 12 big grows across the state, just like Responsible Ohio's 10 big grows. And when Responsible Ohio failed at the ballot box, MRC just reseated their 12 big grow across the state proposal, however, still remained in the legislature to lobby for conservative issues. They also, we believe, have a version of legalization that they'd like to put out in their favor, as opposed to what we have as Am I Legalized? Much more conservative, much more business-oriented. They would prefer that our measure fail in 2018 so that they can launch their own campaign to be successful in 2020. To that I say, fuck you, and fuck you again.
And they also have provided the only known opposition in form of a new group that was formed called Keep Pot Out of Schools.
Right, new group with the same
in
players,
neighborhoods or
right.
something like
they
that.
Just changed the name, but it's the same clowns.
Yep.
So, yeah.
So when we look at the stacking proposal, that's favored by big business entities like the MRC. So the legislature created just 3 different types, 500, 1,000, and 15. So Lara, without legislature, makes an ability to go as high as you want, Class D, C, F, G, Z, whatever. So the legislature steps in through a bill created by Representative Runestad, which says licensing is not allowed. You can't have more than one license on a particular plot of property because obviously what we want everybody to do is to apply to the state. If you have more than one license on one property, you create advantage, but also there's other additional concerns. Were there to be some kind of a cold snap or some kind of an electric outage or some type of a legal action that would cause that business to fail, that's a lot of cannabis that would go out of the industry. If you have a bunch of smaller growers and one guy fails, there's still plenty of cannabis plants in the market so that there's not really a loss of supply for patients and you don't have any kind of a spike in the price. And we all know as medical marijuana patients, price spikes can significantly affect people's health and wellness. We see that with prescription medications, and the cannabis supply is no different. If you're used to a particular quantity on a regular basis for your needs to satisfy your body's desires, your body's necessities, and all of a sudden that's interrupted by financial reasons, it's fucked. How we doing on time? 4:18 almost there?
Yeah. I'd say we take them right into 420. What do you think?
Yep. So one more thing about this. So today they had the second hearing. First hearing on that bill, 5189, to stop the stacking, happened a week ago. The second hearing happened today. I testified a week ago, kicked their ass. But today was a little bit different. So we'll talk about that after the break.
All right, cool. Enjoy your 420. All right, and we're back. The Jazz Cabbage
Nice
Cafe.
short yet productive break.
Yeah, that was the most productive of breaks.
Adam has left the building, and Jeanette has come in. since then.
We traded up.
We certainly did.
Definite upgrade.
Oh.
Jeanette Frazier's a photographer and a friend of the community, wife of attorney Jeff Frazier, who works at the Camoran Law Group, and who's an international stud and star in his own right.
And
Plus
musician.
An
Yeah, great
awesome
musician.
guy. Just a hell of a dude to be around.
No, he is an awesome guy.
Yeah.
A lot of people here of the Planet Green Trees show or certainly have a lot of experience with Planet Green Trees, and including Ken, who really was way at the beginning with Michael and starting that. That's probably 7+ years ago at this point.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
He's been back on
I
a
had
little
a
bit,
hairline,
So,
I think.
gee.
It's been a minute.
Boy, we used to broadcast, in Detroit, way back in the building.
Michael's
Goodness,
basement.
those are some.
Oh, yeah, the basement.
Yeah,
Oh,
those are
that
some-
was great times.
Oh, yeah.
We've had some pretty amazing
That
times.
still is the just most important archive of the history of medical marijuana in Michigan. I mean, every week talking about what's going on for several years now. I mean,
that's that's something to be noted. That's newsworthy and noteworthy.
Yeah. Right. So we're planning on trying to draw from some of that stuff from time to time when it's relevant to topics that we're talking about now, and go back in the history a little bit, using those archives and talking about that.
There've been a lot of radio programs in Michigan. We remember Victor Vicious and Roger used to have a radio show when they first started out. Steve Green had the medical marijuana radio show, which I was the co-host for quite a few of those episodes. I didn't get there for about the first third of it. And then we did the political twist-up show, and we were a syndicated real radio, WDTW, WKTG, and WFNT. I mean, we made some real big progress. And Victor's show in the early years, I mean, that's 2010, Jamie, right? I mean, they were rocking that shit out before the internet radio boom really came around. They were pushing it. Yeah. They were doing things awesome. Yeah. So,
no question.
It's been part of activism here in the state for a long time.
GC3 guys, Jeremy and company were doing a great show on Wednesdays.
They certainly did.
Of course, we were on there one time when it had the record-breaking amount of viewers.
That's true.
Wasn't because of us, I don't think. We just happened.
No, I think it was because of us.
Always because of you guys.
It was, there was a time when
and there's Medical Mondays and stuff like that. So there's a lot of good information out there. But I would say that the information and the seriousness of the legal analysis and what's going on with the legislature and court decisions and all that kind of stuff is unparalleled than the Planet Green Tree show. Yeah. But let's get back on the talking about that bill. We're leading up to today's testimony.
That we teased you on?
Yeah, people.
Yeah.
I'm sure people were
waiting
still on the edge of their
You say
seats.
you kicked ass.
Probably upset that we talked about all those
well.
other radio shows.
Yeah, the video of the testimony, the full testimony from the House of Representatives is available. There's a link on my Facebook page. And then a video of just my testimony, because that's how I am, is also available on the Facebook page. So.
And honest.
And I'm honest about my ego. The fact is, when you don't draw attention to your own accomplishments, oftentimes they go unnoticed. And this was a set of statements that I really wanted to make sure people had an opportunity to draw from. When they want to make these arguments about stacking in small groups or in their activism groups or in family relations or in media quotes, I wanted to be able to draw from good source. So there were some things in there that I felt were worthy of being shared. But today's House Judiciary Committee meeting, I expected to end in a vote on House Bill 5189. Typically, after they take testimony the second time, they vote on the bill itself. And the committee meeting ended 20 minutes early. So it's certainly they had plenty of time for debate and plenty of time for vote. But after they took testimony from 3 or 4 people and read a couple of comment cards into the record, then they dismissed the committee without a vote. The second thing that's odd about that is that the sponsor of the bill, HB 5189, is Representative Runestad, who also happens to be the chairman of that committee. So he can call for a vote on his bill anytime he wants. He must have felt, for whatever reason, that he didn't want to have a vote today. Like perhaps he didn't feel like the votes were there to support it. And I'm curious about that, because today's testimony contained only one negative individual, and the rest of the testimony, and I believe all of the comment cards, were registered in the record as in support of HB 5189. There are, I think, 11 members of the House Judiciary Committee, so that's a lot of voices. And you need to make sure that you have at least 6 for sure yeses before you bring it up. But
and there's a fair list of lawmakers or House representatives who are co-sponsors. There's a bipartisan, fairly long and substantial list of people who support this in the House in general.
Absolutely true. 15 co-sponsors, I believe. And the other thing that's awkward about this is that we see a bit of a juxtaposition in political parties. Representative Runestad, who sponsored this sort of anti-big business, pro-small business measure, is a Republican. And the person who seems to be the chief detractor of this bill, Representative Tim Grimel, is a Democrat. So you see an oddity where you see Dems apparently supporting the opportunity for big business success in a monopolistic manner, and you see Republicans not supporting big business and success in a monopolistic manner.
I made 3 or 4 attempts to get Tim Grimel to sign our petition last time, and he would I literally chased him around the Young Dems picnic.
Mm-hmm.
He refused to sign it. He absolutely would not sign it.
Stalker charge pending on you for that, right?
Well,
Chasing Tim
it's my
Grimel,
job.
right? And when you say petition, you mean the MI
The
legalized
legalized petition, sure.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I all night until I thought I was going to be drug out by security, so I finally let up. He would not sign it.
Wow, that's a
So
memory.
he didn't want to sign it, and he likes the big garden, the mega garden model. So
Yeah. So, and he asks questions like, well, this bill doesn't stop companies from owning multiple plots on multiple locations. It's absolutely true. We wouldn't want it to. I don't think anybody's ever suggested that the MMFLA should be interpreted as to say one company, one garden. That's pretty idiotic. What we're saying is one company shouldn't own 10 licenses that they get all on one plot of land that they streamline the process for, that they immediately dominate their local market on.
This is our worst nightmare.
I
This
know.
is what MI Legalized fought against so hard. This is ridiculous.
I agree with that. The other thing is the barrier for entry on this is sort of high. Now, realizing
huge.
the pricing on this is at the maximum about $57,000 for each one of those 1,500 plant licenses. So if you stack 10 on there, it's it's a doable amount.
Have to have that earnest money in the bank for each license? So
Well,
that's going to be a sticking point for the
you
average.
do have to have
Yeah.
it, but there is some more criteria that we
Right.
know now about what qualifies for that.
And there's two different numbers that we're talking about here. One of them that I mentioned, $57,000 per license, is a license fee. The other that we've been talking about, which would be $500,000, is an equity amount that you have to be able to prove. Now, according to statements from Shelley Edgerton, director of LARA, the equity amount could be in either cash or in properties or
A credit
value.
line, perhaps.
Credit line also. Well, that's been
They
suggested.
may
but
bring the
state-
number down,
Lara's not
possibly
mentioned
too.
Yeah, but Lara's not mentioned a credit line. It's been mentioned in an article by
Right.
somebody.
We will until it's official. I mean, those are things that are being speculated. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
But
not-
other than purely liquid assets, she's
Right.
suggesting
Yeah, because
you can-
that's going to be difficult for most people. I mean, I know
Yeah.
people who can scrape together the 50,000, 57,000, but how am I going to show 300 in the bank and prove where it came from?
well, and 300,000
hard.
300,000 is a number for distribution
for a
centers,
distribution center,
dispenser.
yeah, for a dispenser. Even the 500 for the grow. I don't know how you would do that.
Well, what you're really looking at is a system that's designed to only have corporate players. Now, just being devil's advocate for a moment, let's consider what's at stake here. If you're going to issue maybe 10 or 15 licenses right off the bat as Lara, you want to make sure that those companies are fit. Because if 10 of those 15 companies fail in the first 6 months, you've totally screwed the entire patient population for the whole state of Michigan. You've removed a legitimate source, and you've also skewed the supply dynamics so poorly that the medicine they need will be so expensive because it's going to be spread out over a large area. So I can appreciate why you would want to have a secure company apply and be given a license. The definition of secure company is what we're arguing about. In state of Michigan, you need $25,000 equity amount for a tobacco store, which is a federally licensed and monitored facility. You need $50,000 of equity, essentially, for a liquor store to open up and sell booze and kill people with alcohol.
And cigarettes.
And you need a $300,000 equity for a medical marijuana dispensary. Why in the world? Well, the answer is because, sort of other states have used exclusionary pricing like this, so we decided that we would copy the other states in their exclusionary pricing. So the reason why we're all upset about 5189 is we want that bill to pass. The question of why it didn't get brought for a vote today remains curious, because this is a pretty good, I believe that the House Judiciary is a pretty good configuration for us this time around. Grimel's questions have been at least respectful, even though he's insistent and he doesn't really listen to the answers you give him because he's not hearing the words he wants to hear. I would have thought they'd get it out today. There's
This is low priority for Grimel. This is low priority for the Democrats.
they-
and it has always been.
Well-
I mean, we've been chasing it around. It's always been. They always say, hey, we have bigger fish to fry.
That could be true,
Always.
but as Rick pointed out, like the chairman of the committee is Runestad. Is
I
who
know.
introduced the bill. He could get a vote for it at least.
They finished 20 minutes early. There was no debate on the bill.
just some
They took the
strange-
testimony and then they went right to dismissal.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there were people in the committee that would like to have a dialogue. he must not think he's got the votes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
The
there's a lot of influence in the House by certain
Yeah, we've seen that.
Multi-client
factors
lobbying
of this
firms.
whole game.
Yes. One of the problems that we see is that when you start talking about money at the level that we're dealing with here, I mean, literally, if you were to have a 10,000 cannabis plant grow facility on one plot, you would have to have, I think it's $4.5 million or something like that in capitalization proofs. So we're talking about an elite set of players on a national basis that would be interested in this market and have that kind of capitalization that they could prove. So those standards really favor the guys who are already licensed in Pennsylvania or in Colorado or in Oregon or wherever. So the influence wielded by those lobbyists has already been felt in the language of the MMFLA. I mean, we all know that's how Lansing works. That's how all state capitals work. But it's ugly to look at when you finally get a chance to see behind the curtain. I mean,
Yep.
in 2009, maybe I was very naive. Now I'm all bitter and jaded. But that has a lot to do with some personal life choices, not necessarily the legislature as much. Speaking of personal life choices, Jamie, what's up over there?
It's crazy. I just don't get how it could be so much easier.
What am I doing that's
Yes,
requires my
it's
ask me what
you're
I'm
on a
doing?
radio show, not a telephone
I'm trying
show.
to see if there's any information on the elections that are going on.
He's
Right
on
now.
the
He wants to
Offer
start-
He's out on the dark web right
information
now.
that might be useful. For
Election
be as
results
smart
aren't
as
available
Google.
until after the
I
polls close in
apologize.
several
8
hours.
o'clock,
Oh,
8
you're
o'clock.
spinning
Well,
it.
there might be some people that throw
You're
out some
spinning
exit
it.
polling stuff
No,
like
no,
that.
I don't
Eight
think so.
o'clock.
It was a good spin.
Yeah, he was. He did well.
It's okay.
He's married,
he was
so he's good. at that.
fascinated by what you were talking about, Rick.
Yeah, I'm sure. Right. That side of his head that I was looking at right there didn't seem very interested. I'll tell you
You
this,
asking me
though.
a question? Is that how this got
No,
started?
but nobody is. There's a lot of bills in the Michigan legislature right now for pending about marijuana. There's what they call the cleanup bill, which has about 4 or 5 different attributes to it. There's
Which
a bunch
not
of
all
other
bad.
stuff too.
I
no,
mean, they seem to be reasonable, at least on the surface. I'm always
is the
concerned
cleanup
there's
bill?
some underlying weird strategy taking place there, but they seem to be sensible on the surface.
cleanup bill is a bill where they've decided they're going to fix a bunch of little quirks in the MMFLA language. Fix, in air quotes.
You always get concerned about that when this particular legislature gets involved with law changes around, our issue.
Because it sounds really good for about 89 days, and then on the 90th day, all the shit gets thrown
Dun,
in there
dun,
and gets
dun.
passed.
Yeah, it's totally different than how they originally presented.
And
Good way to play the game.
and it's almost like seeing a car on the train tracks and watching the locomotive speeding towards it. You know what's going to happen. You know it's going to be a disaster, and you cannot do a damn thing to stop it. It's very frustrating. It's one of the reasons why people that got into politics get out of politics, because it crushes your soul a little bit. So
You have to be prepared for just complete illogic.
2014 hurt. I still
no,
feel bad
things don't
about
have to
that.
make sense necessarily in order to be.
Yeah, 2014 in the legislature just kills me. We had such a good bill, the local option bill. It was not ideal. It was not what we started with.
No.
And it was a bit of far afield from where our original intention was, but it was a workable bill.
It kept the caregivers as the main supply
Yeah,
of
we
the inventory.
we fought so
which-
hard for that because I didn't want to. Oh my God, I can't.
Which makes
believe
sense. It was there, and they added testing, which we didn't necessarily find. We thought that the market would dictate testing, but
Yeah.
if you think about a consumable that's being commercially distributed, that's not totally off the wall. So they kind of added testing to it, which means that the concern of people growing in their homes and whatever that means, the stuff gets tested, and if it passes muster, then it passes muster. It goes to the market.
And we made sure
and
testing was
the
reasonable.
Patients get a hold of it. It's been making sense for a long time.
Even
right now.
there are testing results that are
Sort
just
of like a
unnecessary.
USDA minimum standard, or
Make sure there's no contaminants in it was really the main concern that was put
Right.
in there. So
Yeah.
FDA style, just from a parallel.
some kind of parameter, like
Some-
they couldn't have
kind of
pesticides
quality.
and
But you-
molds and.
Yeah.
But you
and
don't need a
stuff.
plate
that you don't
smear.
want.
You don't need a gram stain. You don't need 3 days in an incubator to tell
Right.
whether cannabis is good and healthy for you. When they, we're laughing,
Some
but
of the
that's
mold tests are
seriously-
like that.
Oh,
yeah.
God.
That's exactly what some of the mold tests are. When you test for every little damn thing that could potentially be out there, it's very lucrative for the testing companies,
Right.
but it's not very practical. And when you look at the rate at which they find false positives, or they find positives and then retest and it's not, that falls outside the normal error for the machine. So it's a human issue. So.
And it also makes me question at what level it shouldn't be some kind of a level that's defined as to when you should have to test, because if it's in your home, you shouldn't have to test your own stuff if you.
No, for commercial distribution only.
Under
So
the
it's like-
So mass distribution.
Anything that's sold
Right now, yeah.
anything that's sold in a retail store will have to be tested, and typically
Even if it's a small mom and pop.
yeah.
well,
If it's being sold commercially, it'll have to be tested.
Well, it's
No,
impossible.
not
though.
patient
You
to
can't, you
caregiver.
can't test every plant. You can't test every
Well,
gram. That's
yeah,
what Ken is saying.
yeah.
No,
You can't
a sample.
Samples of
so
batches.
so
and
yeah,
things
so
like
somebody
that.
will have to determine what constitutes a batch.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then it'll be tested based on that. And what they're supposed to do is come and take random samples from throughout the batch, mix it all together, and then take a gram of that,
Okay.
and then test that. And that's your most likely average
Yeah, and
throughout
under
this
theory,
batch
if
of-
you're growing the same way each time with you're going to come out with the same results. That's probably the theory. But mold is unpredictable.
Exactly.
well, there's all
Yeah.
kinds of different things that can happen. You can have a variation in light cycle based on an interruption in the flow of electricity, or
No, but that won't affect. That won't make your weed contaminated
Oh,
or
no.
pesticides
But
and things
mold-
of that nature.
but-
So if you use the same nutrients and
Yeah.
the same methods, except for mold, I think everything should be pretty consistent. The mold is something.
just talking about the need for testing.
Yeah.
A good example I could think of is like if it's something like a restaurant like McDonald's, you're not going to test the burgers, each one, to see if there's contaminants in it, but you will monitor each kitchen
Right.
and grade the kitchens
Right.
to make sure that they're clean.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yep.
You know,
And the only time when we have a production of concentrates, testing is mandated as the cannabis leaves the testing facility. So it has to be tested before it gets to destination.
right?
So when you ship it out from your cultivation center, it's got a test result already attached to it. And then when it gets concentrated or turned into a medible or turned into a lotion or a cream, then it's retested so that finished product also has a test result on it before it goes to the retail store. So whether you get cannabis flower directly from the garden or whether you get a concentrate from a processor, it has a test result already there. And the question becomes, who submits these tests? If I'm a gardener, I'm going to take my best-looking piece and send it in because I want a high THC number.
Exactly.
I'm not going for the lower buds and
Right.
all that other
That's why
stuff.
the
I keep my little clean samples. to
the
Exactly.
standards, like for the third-party standards, typically,
Right.
again, somebody has to define what a batch is, and then that's set aside. And then the technician comes in from the lab and takes pieces of it from around the entire batch, and then mixes it together and uses that as the test sample. So that's what it's determined.
Or maybe it'll be more like the guys are saying here, that like we have a health department set up where they come in and do inspections of your grow and see what your
Because then they
methods
could
are.
stop complaining about
Right.
house fires and stuff like that too.
I
You
don't
know, make-
know. You know,
Possibly.
That's possible.
That's very creative.
Well,
that would be
yeah,
a whole new
electrician-
level of government.
See, and in the past, you couldn't really do that because gardens were controlled. You couldn't go in the garden unless you were a caregiver. But now under the MMFLA system, you can have contractors. You can have
Right.
people that aren't necessarily registered with the program have access to the plants for various things, fix the air conditioning, do
Right.
whatever you need.
People in your garden, they bring in
Right.
contaminants. They
Right.
bring.
I would agree with that,
yeah.
but the point is now you've opened up a whole new section of economy because now you're legitimizing other subsections of different businesses. You know, testing sample people like you talked about, other folks of that nature. They just couldn't exist under the MMMA program because they were so dickish about the way they wanted to control access to gardens and only make it for the caregiver. Who, by the way, that's a whole program that supposes that caregivers never go on vacation, that you never get sick, that you never have to work, that you're able to give your garden 365-day-a-year attention, which is a program destined for failure. And when you make something like that, it was from, I believe, naivete. That I don't think MPP came in here with the intention of recriminalizing people they were trying to save with the law. It was just an unintended consequence. But the way the courts twisted that shit around.
Yeah, the minute you harvest, you're a felon.
I know.
The minute you harvest, you're a felon.
I know.
They only allow you 15 ounces.
Yeah.
Yep. Even
You're
12.
done.
Well, at least it's been established that they
12
know
plants
it's
is gonna
wet
be
from the time, like for a while. So I mean, that's Cameron was involved in one of
I
those
understand
victories.
that, but there's such a huge difference between what you
Yeah.
actually
I
are
know.
cutting and 15 ounces. It's
Well, isn't it as simple as just writing on the bag
Enormous.
unusable?
Right.
No, it's not.
Wet
I don't
or
know.
dry.
I don't know of
Right.
any
Yeah,
court
it's
that's
a huge
accepted that
difference.
as an
Okay.
unusable. Yeah, so, Ken, let's talk to you real quick before we get into the 5 o'clock hour, and we've got a couple of other things going on. What's hot with stocks? Tell us about your company and what you do and how we can get a hold of you.
All right. Appreciate that. Well, my company is called Bullish Institute of Financial Literacy. Bullish Institute is the website, and we teach stock market literacy, financial literacy. We teach people about saving money, better financial choices, credit, and the like, retirement. But it's just education. We're not a brokerage. We don't give us any money. You just give us a little of your time, and we give you a lot of education. We'd like to help educate, enlighten, and empower people. And we have seen that the medical marijuana, or whole, not just medical, but the cannabis industry as a whole, and hemp has been really heating up on Wall Street. And what we wanted to do is come in and shed some light on a few stocks, a couple tickers that may be worth your portfolio's research or your watch list. One of them being AbbVie Company. Another one being SMG, which is Scott's Miracle Grow. Another one, well, first of all, let me jump on these two real quick while we're at it. Scott's Miracle Grow has been one of the hottest marijuana stocks out. I think we spoke about it maybe 2 months ago, where we're doing the Planet Green Trees, and then several months ago, it was one of the companies mentioned when we did the conference.
Mm-hmm.
And
the MICBD conference in Detroit.
Absolutely. And currently, Scott's Miracle Grow is trading at $102.44 a share, and it's been on fire. It's actually up. It's actually up over 18% this year alone.
They just acquired a big company, a nutrient company.
They did. And one thing is very interesting about Scott's Miracle Grow. If you look at their 5-year graph, Scott's Miracle Grow is up 189% in the last 5 years.
Wow.
You know, and that's real returns. You just
The
divide
Lowell company
that.
chose to get involved in cannabis and went way up. So
Yeah.
they made a smart decision at some point. Right?
The stock got high just like the people got
Yeah,
high.
I mean, men and women can lie, but the numbers don't. And the reality of it is, if you divide out that 200% over 5 years, you're looking at an average of 40% returns on your money. And there isn't a portfolio. There isn't a Janus Fund, a Fidelity, a Putnam, a Oppenheimer. No one's getting 40% returns.
Right.
But, I mean, I guess Scott's Miracle Grow, so I can't say nobody, right? And, so just throwing some things out there to put under the hat. So I know we don't have a lot of time, but I wanted to shed some light on that company. I wanted to go ahead while I got a quick second and just give this last one little company, because we do have one that's more budget-friendly if you don't want to invest $100 a share. One company called Insys Therapeutics, INSYS, Insys Therapeutics. They're trading at $4.97 a share. They're involved in cannabis-based medical research that treats different severe inflammatory and fibrotic diseases. And what I liked about them is on their 52-week low, is $4.10 a share. Their 52-week high is $15.06 a share. That's an 11-point spread of upswing potential. Now, keep in mind, it's currently trading at $4.97 a share. So
down near the lows.
Exactly.
Down to your 12-month low.
Yeah, you're talking about a stock that's basically trading at $5 that has a $4 low. So you're 1 point above your low, but you're still 6 points below the high. So that's some room. You can get in at 5 and potentially get out at 9, 10,
How recently was it 15?
15 was at the beginning of the year.
Because if I see 15 drop to 4, then I'm thinking there's some really negative news about the company, or something that's impacted their outlook in a negative way.
Actually, it was $10 a share in October. So that's been the last 3 months, just showing. So it's dropped in half.
The outdoor harvest interfered with their
Interfered with a lot of stuff.
May 30th of 2017. May 30th of 2017 is when it was last $15. So it dropped 10 points since May.
We expect it to go right back up onto another rise. It's going to reach another peak near
Well, one strategy that we use in Wall Street is called the dead cat bounce. So whenever a stock gets crushed like this graph here, sometimes we consider it could be potentially an emotional oversell. People just gave up on the stock. They're just sick of trying to hold their breath and see what happens.
But it still has all the solid financials that made it worth 15 in the first place.
Exactly. And so when you look at that, now it's 5. It was worth 15.
Ken says, look at this
spread in
graph
there.
for those listening. Just picture like a bunch of points going up and down and corresponding with what's being discussed.
But I appreciate the opportunity.
thank
guys,
you,
to
man.
Shed a little light. So
Good stuff, man.
Now I'm like sitting here thinking, like, oh god.
Well, we get the news, and we've got
It's
to
worth making the news.
Scott's
late.
Miracle Grow and Insys Therapeutics, SMG and INSS.
How can our listeners get a hold of you, Ken?
Easiest way to get a hold of me is to catch me online, bullishinstitute.com or Bullish Picks, Picks for Bullish Stock Picks, bullishpicks.com. I'm easy to find. I do workshops all over. So, catch me. It's all the information's on the website.
Outstanding. And based right here in Detroit.
Yeah, based out here in Detroit. We do the Northwest Activity Center every second Saturday. You can catch me there. We actually do the Retford Library on a quarterly basis and the Easter Library on a quarterly basis. So we're, got some local stuff happening. But just got back from Arizona doing a workshop out in Phoenix last week. And I've been to Dallas doing workshops. I've done Atlanta, Georgia. So we're taking it nationwide.
And people can listen to you on Planet Green Trees and hopefully on here more often.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I look forward to it.
Just another opportunity for mainstream businesses to realize a new opportunity for growth and for revenue generation in the cannabis space. I love it. You know what? When we talk to legislators and other people and tell them that cannabis stocks are traded publicly and that there's acquisitions made by companies like Scott's Miracle Grow, which is a household name, everybody knows, they're flabbergasted. They don't think it's that advanced. And it's the people that fall asleep on the subject that weep on the subject. It's the ones that jump to the cause that make all the bread. So thanks for coming and sharing that knowledge, Ken.
Appreciate you guys once again for having me. I will not be a stranger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're broadcasting right from Redford, so you're around. Yep. Excellent. All right, so let's go right into the news. It is the news, everybody. Oh my God, it's November 7th, 2017. Man, how time flies. The news features a story we don't like to cover, but we have to, about roadside impairment testing by the Michigan State Police. This particular article I'm going to read sections from comes from a friend of ours, Brad Devereaux from mlive.com. He writes, police from a dozen agencies will use handheld devices to test drivers' saliva for use of several drugs under a pilot program in 5 Michigan counties. The police announced Thursday, November 2nd, it'll carry out a 1-year roadside drug testing pilot program in Berrien, Delta, Kent, St. Clair, and Washtenaw counties, beginning on November 8th. They're calling the new test the Alere DDS-2 oral fluid test, and it'll be used to measure for the presence of drugs in drivers' saliva. The device will record results based on threshold limits set by the manufacturer. It tests for 6 substances: amphetamines, benzodiazepines, marijuana, cannabis, cocaine, methamphetamine, and opiates. Banner said it should be noted that threshold levels for saliva are different than that for blood. The drug test will take place roadside like the alcohol preliminary breath test. But if you refuse the oral fluid swab test, it will result in a civil infraction, just like an alcohol PBT. Also, the tests are administered by drug recognition experts, and if you refuse a test from them, they can order your blood through a warrant anyway. What's a good way to make money in cannabis? We talked about a lot of things. How about if you sell your cannabis garden for $2 million? Would that be a good thing? I think so. Our friend,
Make me an offer.
our friend
I know that's right.
Dave Overholt from Sheridan, Michigan, is doing just that. An article by Jim Harger from MLive titled "Michigan Man Selling Marijuana Farm with an Asking Price of $2 Million." As Michigan appears ready to expand the medical marijuana industry and possibly legalize recreational marijuana use, Overholt has put up his 82-acre farm for $2 million, far more than the $2,000 to $3,000 per acre most farmers are getting for their land. But Overholt, who's championed compassion clubs, has no ordinary farm at Derby Road outside of Sydney. Behind the 2-story frame house that's set far back from the road, There's a wire-enclosed outdoor garden, including 8 32 by 32-foot rooms designed to grow medical marijuana under optimal growing conditions. He has leased each room for $10,000 a year to persons who are licensed to grow medical marijuana under the law approved by voters in 2008, says Mr. Overholt. I hope Dave is able to find a buyer for his property.
Man.
I wish nothing but good things for that
the
guy.
township hasn't opted in, right?
I'm not sure whether they have or not.
I don't think it has. That he actually lives where.
You're interrupting me.
I'm sorry, where Fred Meyer was born. The founder of Meyer
Really?
Thrifty Acres.
That is
Sure.
kind of cute.
Yep.
How about 7 homes that were seized in Saginaw being sold at forfeiture auction? You remember the St. Patrick's Day bust, right? They busted 17 people from 4 states in the city of Saginaw creating cannabis in little homes and shipping it all over the United States.
Wow.
The forfeiture haul for the 7 houses totals $190,000 worth of assessed property value. That's not a whole lot for 7 homes, dude. Those are some tiny homes. The St. Patrick's Day raids March 17th on 8 Saginaw County homes yielded only 285 marijuana plants, 172 pounds of cannabis, 18 pounds of shake. I love how they define shake. 59 marijuana stalks with roots, and numerous grow operation items. Well, they sold and forfeited that. Most of those people that busted there did not speak English. I recall this story very well. One of the homes on Butler Road in Buena Vista Township is worth about $21,000. Another one in Bridgeport worth about $30,000. And another in Bridgeport Township worth about $28,000. These are all low-rent homes that were used as cannabis gardens, now sold to other people who will probably neglect them anyway.
Or use them as cannabis gardens.
Or use them as cannabis gardens once again. You know, it is election day. Let's wrap up our news segment here with some talk about elections, both national and local. Start local because, damn, I love Detroit. Voters in Wayne County today decide the fate of Proposal A and Proposal B, both of which would amend the current medical marijuana laws in the city. Proposal A changes the Detroit City Code to require a dispensary to be 500 feet at least from another dispensary and a church, down from the current requirement of 1,000 feet. It would also allow distribution centers near alcohol retailers. Why not? Child care centers, not a problem. Arcades and parks. Do we even have arcades anymore? Under Proposal A, dispensaries would be allowed to stay open until 9 p.m., extending the current required closing time by 1 hour. Proposal B, a companion proposal, would allow growers and secure transporters to establish and operate within Detroit's industrial districts and business districts. Now, another city proposal from across the state, Athens, Ohio. Athens cannabis ordinance would reduce penalties for cannabis misdemeanors to a fine of $0, effectively depenalizing low-level cannabis possession, cultivation, and gifting. Misdemeanors affected would include possession of up to 200 grams of marijuana and up to 10 grams of hash. Why are they discriminating against hash? That's so mean. Cultivation of up to 200 grams of marijuana, gifts of up to 20 grams of marijuana, and possession and sale of paraphernalia. There are some gubernatorial races, too, that are important. New Jersey governor. New Jersey's gubernatorial race will pick a replacement for current Republican Governor Chris Embarrassment.
Can't do much better than
Poor
Chris
Chris.
Chris Christie. He's probably going to get a job in the Trump administration anyway. He'll be chief backwasher and crack runner.
I think he's most hated by the Trumps.
Oh, he's horrible. And now, Christie, as we all know, has lashed out against both medical and adult-use cannabis legalization, most recently in a report to the Trump administration ordered by the Sessions Attorney General's Department. From a cannabis perspective, the stakes couldn't be higher. Either candidate would likely be an improvement over Christie, but the Democrat, Phil Murray, who currently leads the race, wants to legalize cannabis for adult use. Go Jersey! His opponent, Republican Kim Guadagno, currently Christie's lieutenant governor, does not. She is
Guano.
That could be one pronunciation of her name, not a very favorable one. I'm probably screwed it up anyway. She says she's, quote, wholly opposed to legalizing marijuana, end quote, although she's indicated support for limited decriminalization. Whatever.
Holy guano.
Blah. Virginia governor we think about Virginia, and a lot of people don't pay attention to it, but it's
for
really close to
lovers.
D.C., baby. It is really right there, and it has a lot of effect on the people inside the Beltway. Currently holding a narrow lead in the polls is the Democratic nominee Ralph Northam, the state's lieutenant governor, who says he supports medical marijuana and would make a push for decriminalizing cannabis if he's elected. He called the state's current enforcement and sentencing laws, quote, costly and disproportionately harmful to communities of color, end quote. You go, Ralph. Northam's opponent, Republican Ed Gillespie, is more sluggish about reform. He says he opposes decriminalization because, quote, it sends the wrong signal, end quote, to young people. Yeah, like idiocy doesn't send the wrong signal. But he said he would support a three-strikes approach that would remove criminal charges for the first and second offenses. But he said to a crowd in Richmond and Virginia in September, quote, you really should know better, quote. And on medical use, Gillespie says he supports limited, tightly regulated use of cannabis for certain medical conditions. That's not really much of a support nowadays. Statewide measures. Voters in New York have a chance to vote on a constitutional convention. Now, that doesn't normally translate directly to cannabis, but the Constitutional Convention could open the door for statewide legalization of adult-use cannabis via a change to the state's constitution. Although that's not a guarantee, it is a possibility, and New York would be one of the first states in the nation to do that way. Folks, that is the cannabis news. Today it is November 7th, 2017.
It is.
Thank you for listening.
Yes. Good job, Rick. It's always an enjoyable moment for me, I must say.
So informative.
Wow,
Yay. We should be
was it
around
good
the
for
corner
you?
from
It was
good
great.
for me.
Again, this is the Jazz Cabbage Cafe. Call in anytime, 313-879-5059. What do you guys think? You want to take a break here?
I think we should take a
think we need a
log
break.
break.
Nice.
Rephrase that a little bit. I'm not sure if I like the images. Yeah.
I like that. I like log break.
All right, I got a bomber sitting right here. Let's
Before we go, though, I
Cannabis
just wanted to say
cannabis
Jazz Cabbage Cafe proudly introduces you to the Michigan Marijuana Law Experts, MMLE, assists cultivators, provisioning centers, processors, transporters, and safety and compliance testing labs in obtaining MMFLA licenses. Contact Michigan Marijuana Law Experts to learn more about the many opportunities awaiting you in Michigan's emerging cannabis industry. Visit them online at mmleexperts.com or call 989-321-6004.
Don't we have a special guest caller calling in after our break?
We
too?
do.
Let's hurry up and get out and come back.
We don't got to hurry up. I actually asked her if she didn't mind calling in at 5:30.
because we're going to have to burn one.
Yes.
Okay,
This is
good.
a very well planned out thing here.
We're going to hear more about what's going on in Lansing, though, with the
well-structured
challenge to the
show.
referendum thing. Because this guy, Chris Swope, not only did this, but he also caused some issues with the initiative that they were trying to get. The ordinance originally
Right.
was denied for other reasons. And that's a future case that might, or a future suit that might show up, depending on what happens with this
It's
one.
bullshit, and I'm excited to hear from her and to hear, something from the inside. So she's a spokesperson.
For the ballot petition group that
She
put
knows
together
what's
those
up.
signatures.
She knows what's up.
Yeah, she's the baddest.
But it's she's a spokesperson for the Lansing Cannabis Caucus.
Yep.
That's what it is. So anyway, after the break, we'll get more into that. Got some exciting stuff to talk about. Here we go. Get stoned.
Caucus spokesman.
All right. I had a good break there. Welcome back to the Jazz Cabbage Cafe. We're here.
yes.
We're still here.
Still
Here.
float on.
And the number, if you want to call in, is 313-879-5059. We got one of our friends, though, calling in just a few moments here. Looking forward to hearing from her spokesperson having to do with this bullshit out in Lansing.
Right, so, I mean, we could probably
Point
What?
your front.
talk about that a little bit. Just
Yeah,
to kinda,
introduce it.
Get ready for this discussion with her.
But
There-
before we do that, let's thank Jeanette Frazier for coming and taking some photos, some headshots. Yeah, Jeanette. And Jeanette, how could people find you if they wanted to contract your services and get some professional shots, although they wouldn't look as pretty as mine?
Well, they can find me at my website, which is JeanetteWarner.com, JeanetteWarner.com.
And Jeanette does this kind of practical kind of work, but also gets into some really artistic type photography. And we've been able to have some of her stuff donated to us that we've used at auction and raised some good money for legalization,
Yeah, that's
which is
true.
much appreciated. Yep.
Based out of the Linden area.
Very talented.
Beautiful
Yeah,
place.
Weddings, headshots, any
Oh,
photographic
headshots.
needs.
Got it. All right, so let's set up the whole caller as far as the Lansing situation. We talked briefly before the break, Jamie Lowell, about the fact that there was a previous effort that it looks like the Lansing city clerk kind of squashed. Describe that history for us.
Well, there was a local ordinance in order for Lansing to have a formal policy surrounding dispensaries, and it was very broad and liberal. And the group putting that on did all the necessary requirements of getting signatures and in a proper time and in the proper format. And they were just simply denied based on some potential legal conflict or some other issue or something like that. And that's not the job of the clerk or the decision makers in terms of how something makes it to ballot. It's more whether or not everything was done properly as it was. And this has been challenged before. So that was the first thing. They've chosen so far not to challenge it, although that's still on the table. They then, City of Lansing passed their own ordinance, and the people, I think a lot of people maybe in that same group that did the original ordinance, decided to use the referendum process, which is to get signatures and then to force that new policy change by the local government to ballot to see if the people want it. They got enough signatures to do that, and the same clerk has invalidated them for reasons that seem very dubious and not very strong. And then
Shady.
when called out on it after a FOIA request, seeing what was going on and why there should be so many other signatures that are actually counted, the clerk said, well, too bad. There's no mechanism for me to go back and do anything about it now that this has been done.
You can challenge them in court. I mean, I was involved in the campaign where we challenged them in court, and it's expensive. But we won, but it's expensive.
So Nick Bostic
If you're right, you're right.
and Boogie Bob Beldori are the legal team for this challenge. And
Yeah,
we're going
yes.
to get some more of the specifics on that when we speak to our caller. But that's a pretty formidable group to decide to take this case on, and I would imagine there must be something there if they're kind of involved.
Well, here's what I'll say is that although Lansing will have an expert on to talk about it, it's not unique in the fact that it's a local community in Michigan who may be, stretching the definitions of what they're allowed to do and won't surrender to proper action unless they're forced to by the citizenry. We talked about Warren earlier today. We also talked about the ACLU, and our good friend Kurt Guyette is now an official investigator for the ACLU, and he received some really awesome credit and some awesome FaceTime in the movie Flint, which I just attended the premiere of last month. The actor that portrayed him wasn't nearly tall enough because Kurt's a big guy. But the fact is, when we look at what people have accomplished across the state, Kurt Guyette, I mean, he started with journalism. He's done a lot of things.
I saw that he had posted that they were sitting around months ago, maybe a year ago, after the stories had come out, and they were joking with each other about who would play them in the movie.
It's always fun
Another-
to
Yeah.
who will play you in this.
Well, and I guess at that point, sometimes you realize that you're on the threshold of something big. Like you're about to make a splash that's going to be heard around the world. And the Flint water crisis really was that, the splash heard around the world.
It's still reverberating.
As
There's a
a
lot of stuff going on with that.
yeah.
A lot of money being spent.
As a lifelong resident of Flint and a current resident of Flint Township, I have to tell you, one of the things I'm most concerned about is that everybody forgets, and that the situation doesn't get improved, and that no one cares anymore, and there's no more money, and the media stops paying attention to us, and families continue to suffer, and they scream and yell, and no one hears anymore, because that's what it was like before.
And that's why we need our
And that's where it'll
clerks,
go back to.
particularly in Lansing, to follow the democratic process and
Right.
allow the people to have their voice so they don't get in these predicaments.
Yep, exactly. So when we see examples of this, perhaps sometimes local cities, I don't want to say run amok, but local cities that maybe are following a different set of guidelines than what we would normally expect them to, we have to hold them accountable.
And the clerks, the ones that I've been involved with in some of these local initiatives, always consult with the city attorneys who do not seem to really know the law.
Right.
And that's a big problem. So we're
Or they're
educating them
willing
as we
to-
move along.
They're willing to do this and stretch it until or unless they're told they can't
Right.
anymore.
Yeah.
Well, and here's where we create an additional dependency. So you got a small community. They hire a guy who's just a lawyer, right?
Just a lawyer.
And he tries to cover the entire breadth of governmental legal necessity, and it's too much for him. So what does he do, right? Instead of saying, I can't fulfill your contract, you can send it to somebody else, he goes to something like the Michigan Municipal League or the Michigan Townships Association and says to them, help me define. Now, that's how power at the MTA and the Michigan Municipal League, that's how that can get wielded, by instructing small communities who depend upon the Townships Authority and the Michigan Municipal League to provide them with unbiased, nonpartisan advice about how to run their cities in a correct and legal manner. But sometimes we see that there's influence wielded at that level of politics, too.
No, talk about history. We've discussed bringing more history into this conversation. Before the MMA was even passed, the DEA and others had gotten to the municipal leagues and the Townships Association and began telling them how they can go about not allowing the full impact of this law to get
how to opt
implemented.
out.
Sure.
Yeah, and they did, and I've sat in a municipal league meeting in which the city attorney of Grand Rapids told people they should go the police, they should be directed to be out in front of these compassion clubs, and she didn't say places where known transactions are taking place or dispensaries or anything like that. She said compassion clubs, and they should pull people over when they leave and start these test cases.
Yep.
Hey, so we do have Sarah on the line, and
Great.
how you doing, Sarah?
Hi there.
How you doing?
Be here.
So this is Sarah
Very
Galley.
well, thank you.
She is the spokesperson for Lansing Cannabis Caucus. She's going to fill us in a little bit about some of the stuff going on out in Lansing. Jamie, do you have any specific questions for her, maybe just to get her started?
No, please. We know that there was a issue with signature count, and there's a challenge to that. And why don't you fill us in with what the case is about?
Yeah, sure. So this is sort of the latest installment in an ongoing series of ballot initiatives and grassroots action that have taken place in Lansing over the past several months, having to do with the ordinance that's going to regulate the cannabis industry in Lansing. And so the latest thing that has happened is there was a ordinance passed in September by the Lansing City Council that we feel greatly overregulated the marijuana industry. It placed a cap, for example, on dispensaries at 25, and included extremely restrictive zoning provisions and financial fitness kinds of tests that would have severely curtailed the growing industry here. And so we filed a referendum, which was we had to do within 30 days. We collected well in excess of 4,000 signatures from Lansing voters, and we did that in a very short amount of time.
How many were required?
So 4,009 were required, which is 5% of registered voters in Lansing, and I think we had somewhere around 5,000 or 6,000 that we submitted. And so the city clerk, Chris Slope, reviewed those. They had 15 days to do that. And November 1st was the first we heard from the city clerk's office, and they said that we were short by like 26 signatures, that we had 10 days to file more, which we did. We collected, I think, around 250 signatures and resubmitted those. And now, just this week, or last week, sorry, the city clerk came back again and said that we were now short 45 signatures.
So you submitted additional signatures, and then they said you had less qualified?
Yeah.
Still didn't qualify.
Lansing math.
Still didn't qualify.
Wow.
And at first they wouldn't even give us the signatures back so that we could look at them ourselves and see, what the discrepancies were about. And so we had to put in a FOIA request, and so we got those back. And on our review of them, we think that they, at least 750 signatures or more were improperly disqualified. And these were all for very tenuous reasons, where there's no laws that are really written. Like, for example, I think one of the reasons was that, some of the people collecting the signatures were from out of state, or that they weren't actually registered voters, but there's, absolutely nothing in the laws that say those people can't collect signatures. So they were on really tenuous grounds, and so we filed a lawsuit in the Ingham County Circuit Court against the city clerk to challenge this decision.
Now, your status of that lawsuit, that was just filed this week. So what's the anticipated time frame here?
I'm not sure what the anticipated time frame is. If we'll be hopefully granted some kind of injunction so that the referendum could, that the 2017 ordinance would not move forward. And hopefully, in the long run, the Lansing voters will get an opportunity to actually vote on this initiative. Now, at the same time, we have been working with the city council to maybe sort out some of the major issues that were in the 2017 ordinance. And so, it's possible that if we worked out a more reasonable regulatory framework with them, that we might end up not moving forward with this. But as of right now, we filed the lawsuit and we're going to pursue the referendum.
Now, your original target for the referendum was today's election, isn't that correct? This special election on November 7th?
No, the referendum wouldn't have taken place on November the 7th. It would have taken place sometime in May. It would have been a special election.
So that's still possible. If you were able to get some type of relief from the court system, you could still hit that deadline. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, we absolutely could.
Excellent. Very good.
That's what we're hoping for right now.
And who's your legal team, and in what court did they file?
I'm not sure who the head of the legal team is, because this just happened yesterday. We filed in the Ingham County Circuit Court. So.
Okay, well, we're in good shape there. There's some judges that aren't as horrible as they get in that area, so that could be on a good course as far as the initial round goes.
Now let's talk about the rollout of Lansing's license, because if I'm not mistaken, they're going to start accepting applications for new distribution center licenses soon. Isn't that true?
They're supposed to be able to. I believe if we had not done this referendum, I think the applications would have either already been available, or they would have been available in mid-November. But really now what's happened is the law's in flux right now. And so I'm not sure. I think a lot of it is going to depend on what happens in the next city council meeting. There's been a number of amendments that have been proposed to a 2011 ordinance that would create actually a really similar law to the 2017 ordinance, but with some really important differences that were much more amenable to. It gets rid of a lot of the restrictive provisions that were in the 2017 ordinance. But as of right now, I don't think either the city council knows or we know when the applications are actually going to be available.
Let's talk for a second about the situation that existed in Lansing even a year ago. At that time, we were looking at media reports of 70 active distribution centers in the city of Lansing, centers that were servicing patients coming from around the state to find relief and medical marijuana available in the community. And then the city council passed an ordinance that essentially told every single one of them they had to shut down and then reapply for the right to open back up. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
So
that's fair to say.
And how is that rolling out? I mean, have you noticed, you're in Lansing all the time, have you noticed a significant decrease in the number of distribution centers open? Are a lot of places complying with that council rule, or are we still sort of waiting for the other shoe to drop now?
No, I think we're still waiting for the other shoe to drop. I think a lot of the provisioning centers have been operating in the gray area for such a long time, especially in Lansing, that they are sort of used to this legislative back and forth.
Right.
And because it's not just the Lansing City Council that I think gives a lot of mixed messages, quite frankly, to the cannabis community and business owners, but also the state regulatory process. Like it's like there's something new every week. At this point from Lara that seems to be constantly changing this licensing process. So I know a lot of them were considering shutting down on December 15th, but now, they're going to be allowed to stay open. So as far as I can see, most of the dispensaries have stayed open, and we think the number is actually closer to 80 or above of the provisioning centers that are open here right now.
Well, the Licensing and Regulatory Affairs said distribution centers wouldn't be penalized in the applications process as long as they applied. And if they did not apply by, I believe it's the end of February, then they then Lara isn't offering them any protection. So at most, we're only offering a couple of months, kind of an additional window here, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so that's a big shadow that hangs over everything. So is there a possibility that the city council will take up the language of the referendum that you've passed and not force you to put it on the ballot and just consider it as language?
So the possibility, the release that we could get right now, which is what we're really still hoping for, although I will say this latest decision by the city clerk has really thrown kind of everything back into question, because, once we moved forward with this referendum, I think the city council was very unexpected. When we talked to Chris Swope, he said it was the first referendum that's been, citizen initiated referendum that had been put in place for over 20 years in Lansing. So in a lot of ways, they kind of didn't know what to do with it. But immediately after we got this referendum ballot passed, they started, the city council members kind of approached our group with a pretty different attitude. And we've been dialoguing with some of them. And so one possibility is that they are going to propose amendments to the 2011 ordinance, which is what would technically go into effect right now, although it doesn't comply with the state regulations. So they're trying to basically pass amendments to make it align with the state regulations, but also to include some more reasonable provisions, including, for example, doubling the cap on dispensaries and reducing some of the more draconian zoning provisions, or getting rid of some of the more draconian zoning provisions.
Nice. Okay.
So
they could make it reasonable enough that you would withdraw your effort, potentially.
Exactly.
Okay.
Potentially.
And you're seeing allies on city council for that type of action. By the way, joining us here in studio, Perry Winfrey. Applause for Perry Winfrey, everybody. That's right. Yay! So you're seeing you have some allies on city council, because I know I've testified at Lansing City Council in the past. I've been for meetings where I didn't testify, and I'll tell you, there's some folks out there that really hate the ganja. They really do not appreciate cannabis in their community in Lansing. Some of those community groups.
Yeah, no, they really don't. I've heard some pretty wild stuff at some of the city council meetings, both from, unfortunately, people on the city council itself, but also some of the local groups that are very anti-cannabis, and really live in kind of a different time.
Rick and I were burning one with Carol Wood the other day, and she was telling us all about this.
That would be a Kodak moment if we were burning with very much well-known anti-marijuana activist Carol Wood. Jamie's a jokester. Yeah.
Yeah, she's
that would
a
be
handful.
Yeah.
But we've talked a little bit with some of the other members of the city council, so Kathy Dunbar, Patricia Spitzley, Judy Brown Clark, and we recently endorsed Judy Brown Clark for mayor, as well as Tina Houghton and Kathy Dunbar. And so, I mean, today's the election. We're hoping for, nobody really seems to know what the outcome's going to be.
And
so
Andy Shore was the front runner coming in, I think.
For mayor.
Right.
Yeah,
For
he
mayor.
absolutely was.
Okay.
And, you know, it's unfortunate that with Judy Brown Clark especially, that she wasn't more explicit about her stances on cannabis before, I think, very recently, because I think we would have endorsed her a lot sooner. But, you know, she and Pat Spitzley at least seem to be the masterminds behind this whole cap and everything like that. And so we didn't feel like they were, you know, that they supported the cannabis industry in Lansing until more recently. And like I said, after we kind of got these signatures for the referendum is when they really sort of opened up the dialogue, but they didn't really do it before then.
Well, election year supporters are like fair weather friends, right? I mean, the politicians will say whatever it takes to get the votes. So, listen, I appreciate so much you participating in our conversation today about Lansing. Thanks very much for joining us here on the Jazz Cabbage
Very
Cafe.
interesting.
And
Thank
if we
you.
wanted to learn a little bit more about the petition or maybe support your organization, how would we get a hold of you to do that?
Yeah, so you can always get in touch with me, but we also have a Facebook page. We're relatively new organization, so the Lansing Cannabis Caucus is on Facebook, and then getting in touch with me is probably or on the Facebook page is the best way to get in touch with us right now.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope to have you back. Maybe next week you can report on some of those very important Lansing elections that will be decided later this evening and let us know how well we did.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd love to join you again.
Appreciate it. Thanks again from the path of
Thank
Jazz
you very
Cabbage
much.
Cafe.
Yep. That was Sarah Galley from the Lansing Cannabis Caucus. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Sarah.
Thank you very much.
You know, it's about 10 minutes until we have to end our programming here. Ken gave us some great insight into some cannabis stocks. Like I mentioned, Perry has joined us in the studio today. Perry's made a name for himself in Royal Oak with his certification center. We used to do a lot of good work together. We used to do some conversations and some talks with folks. Tell people what you're doing right now, P.
Well, actually, right now.
Get in the mic there.
Oh, okay. Hello there. Hello, thanks to everybody.
Pretend you're talking to your significant other.
Which will be.
That's Rick.
My big
It is
guy.
not Rick. Oh, that would be badass if it was.
Well, anyway, yes. Now I'm still doing certifications, but we're doing retail and we're adding a barbershop now.
Mm-hmm.
So
Where could people find that location?
Get buzzed in, buzzed.
I'm in.
You know what I'm saying?
Get a double buzz.
You don't want the barber to have some secondhand smoke inhalation. No, that would be bad.
Well, sort of, kind of. But we're in Hazel Park still. New location, 21729, right next to Pizza Connection. So
Okay.
it's a nice location. Everything's pretty neat.
You know,
Perfect.
We talk about people that got involved in stuff and started pushing, social awareness in a positive direction. Perry had a place right in downtown Royal Oak. I mean, they shut your street down when there were parades and when they did the art fair and things. Just like Deb Young sitting right next to you, who got 5 different communities in Oakland County to support local
Hazel
legal
Park is one of them.
different marijuana law reform community things.
Yeah.
Like Jamie and I talk about, adding some history to the show. There's some people here with accomplishments that would be lost to time if we don't document them. That's your lead-in,
Luckily, I
Jamie.
I think
documented
Perry's
them.
responsible for some of the best cannabis I had well before the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act ever came into
God.
existence.
Oh, man.
Hey, we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about cannabis.
It's the internet. It never goes away. It's out there now. No, but, we talk about all kinds of stuff on this program. Events.
That's what I was about to get into, actually.
Problems and all kinds of stuff. So let's dig on the events calendar, man.
So there's actually some cool stuff. This thing called Puff Puff Paint
I've done it.
Me
It's cool.
too.
It's fun.
Yeah, it's on there at the Russell Industrial.
Mary Jane.
Yeah,
Yep.
I've done it at the Russell
She's
with
on.
Mary Jane.
Yeah, that's actually
Yeah.
tomorrow.
That's going to be an
and
audio
it's,
cut we save.
I
It's
know.
cool. It's like a therapy session with host Dab Out Dave, and he's the venue owner. Dave has a spectacular private club at the Russell Industrial Center, and he's allowing everybody to use that. Kay has a degree in art therapy and will instruct everybody on how to paint original work of hers. You can bring your own bud. You can get super stoned, relax.
That's a good thing.
It's amazing.
Fun. It's fun, and you take home a painting.
And you get to, it's like those other ones, but
Mine
not
is
as expensive.
embarrassing. Oh, it's horrible.
And you get to get high. Cannabis networking in Metro Detroit, November 8th.
That's legalized.
There you go.
That's right after. So there's these metric training sessions put on by the organization that's going to have the seed to sale systems, and they're showing how that system works and training people on that. And they were very popular, and they had to change locations to accommodate all the requests. And they're going to be in, I think, 5 cities or something like that, or several cities, maybe 5 seminars. And after each of those, or after most of those, legalized has a location at the same place or nearby where we're doing this networking continuation of that meeting and trying to capture some support and offer a forum
It's
for
done?
people.
So let's run up those dates. What are the
So that's November 8th on that one, and that one's actually they had to move. You're right, Jamie. They moved it to a much bigger place, Suburban Collection Show Place in Novi.
One
From
time they moved
9
something much
a.m.
closer to where I
to
live
12
instead of much
p.m.
further away. I was very happy about that. Yeah.
So that's 27790 Novi Road, Novi, Michigan. It's close to our
12
studio.
o'clock that the networking starts.
It's 9 to 12.
No, 9 to 12 is the metric thing. You have to
It's
already
the
signed up for that,
yeah.
though, so you can't just show up there. But
And then
afterward,
12 to
you can-
2:30.
You may show up there.
It's for all the rest of everybody. And then we got
November 15th in Lansing is the next one after that. Well,
in Lansing.
yeah.
There you
No,
go. Maybe
there's
Sarah will be there.
November 13th in Kalamazoo.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The 13th, there's networking in Traverse City. On the 14th, the gubernatorial meet and greet in Traverse City. Then there's
No, that's in Ypsilanti.
Yep, I'm sorry. Gubernatorial meet and greet in Ypsilanti, rather.
At Sidetrack Saloon.
Right. Yep. And then there's an 11th District Candidates Forum, all kinds of stuff. Post Lara meeting on November 28th. December 3rd is the MICBD conference.
And where are all these at though? The November 8th and the December 3rd.
All right. So November 8th, networking in Metro Detroit, which I believe is at Cannabis Council, the Metro Detroit.
Nice.
No, that's Novi tomorrow.
Novi.
No.
November 13th is in Traverse City. I'm not sure what the location is there. And the gubernatorial meet and greet on the 14th is definitely at the Sidetrack.
MIlegalized.com has some more
Yeah.
specifics on
And
those.
Sidetracks out there in Ypsilanti. Delicious food. Good place to be.
That's Depot Town.
Now, we normally end our show with a note of calls to action, things that you guys can do. But this time on the ride in, Jamie was talking about one topic that we haven't hit yet, and I think that this would be one major thing just to know about and just a good call to action.
I got
and
2
have the
things.
knowledge.
One is we are right around the corner from having enough signatures to turn in.
Boom.
So
Perfect.
that's going to go down. The coalition is asking for some more money, believe it or not, to be able to close this out. But we of the 366,000 goal, 360,000 are known of, and there's lots more that haven't been turned in yet. So we're right at the goal, and the next phase will begin shortly after turn in and we get approval for ballot. So when that happens and it's official, we'll all celebrate, but we are just right about there. The other thing is in order to get this and the subsequent CRMLA all implemented properly, we need to have people in positions who are able to do that. Unlike Bill Schuette, who worked against us in his position of Attorney General, we need to get people who will be on our side, and Dana Nessel represents the type of person we need to be our Attorney General, especially to count on these things being implemented as intended. And I don't take a party affiliation, but I recently joined the Michigan Democratic Party for the sole purpose of showing up at the Democratic Convention in April in Detroit and voting for her. There's not a primary process for the AG. They're chosen from within the party by those members who show up and vote. And so we need to get people there to vote for Dana. Her Democratic opponent is not friendly
And
toward cannabis.
when is that event?
It's April 15th at where is it?
It's
At
been at
Cobo
Cobo
or-
Hall in the past. I don't know where it's gonna
Right,
be
so
this
It's
year.
so
Yeah.
big, you got to
Right.
do it at Cobo.
Yeah.
I was at the last Democratic
Yeah,
convention.
but everybody should know that it seems that the powers that be in the party are backing the other candidate. They're not backing Dana, so it's important that everybody gets there because otherwise she will not be the nominee.
Yep.
Everybody has to be a registered Democrat to vote.
And there's a lot of party politicking and individual campaign stumping to take place at the conference itself. So, I mean, there's a lot of votes that are swayed by the presence of advocates there.
Right,
so.
And we can do it. If we show up in mass, we can do this.
Yep, especially if there's a bunch of us wearing T-shirts, and things like that. Deb proudly being able to show.
Yeah, don't worry so much about wearing a T-shirt that day.
I'm not worried about the T-shirt.
Do everybody a favor.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I wouldn't wear my T-shirts, but
no shirt won't hurt.
Yeah, no. The fact is, when you see a large number of people supporting, then it does make a difference.
She raised a lot of money. She's on a good pace. There's some good signs. Some
and
support.
Talk to your friends now. Between now and then, we need to convince people. We need to tell people.
Patrick Miles isn't incredibly super strong. We gotta get going here.
Believe it or
not, sign off.
A few people asked me today about whether or not what they should vote on the Detroit ballot.
Yes,
they didn't even know. I couldn't believe it. Well, I mean,
we have to see what the result of that is. It's kind of mixed. Even people from within the community have mixed reviews on that. We got to sign off. American Works is coming up next.
Definitely tune in. Stay here for that.
It'll be very cool.
And
Cave
come
Radio
back.
Rocks, man. Cave Radio's great.
Yeah, stay here for every show.
Thanks for having us here. We're the Jazz Cabbage Cafe, and we're going to be back every Tuesday from 4 to 6 p.m. And that's a good time because that includes 420. So until next week, get stoned.